All right, I am live now, and I'm just gonna minimize all this stuff as this is not important. I want to thank you for joining me. It's my first time doing a live broadcast, and forgive me for, having a rough cut. That will always be there in the beginning of my video. What I want to get to today is I've never done a physical broadcast. As we are all humans, and this is my first time on my actual channel doing this, I want to share this message to other human beings that are about to be greatly impacted by the upcoming storm that's going to affect Louisiana. I'm not a news broadcaster. I'm not a emergency weather expert or a person that most people would care to listen to. But I think we can all agree that no matter who the president is, no matter where you live, if a serious storm is coming, the old theories of, oh, we've been hit before, especially where I come from. I'm in Florida, and we've been very fortunate, especially since I've lived here since only 2016. I cannot speak from personal experience, but I know for a fact, having been raised and born up north and moved and migrated to southern states since I was a young kid, the age of, I'd say, about 7 years old. I really have a greater memory of what weather was like and drastic changes when I used to live in Virginia. And we never really experienced hurricanes or threats, but we did start to experience weird spells of warming and lacking snow and excessive heat, which now Virginia has, believe it or not, hotter temperatures than what even where I'm at now in Florida on consistent basis. I have a friend of mine who lives up there, and when I was living there at the time, I'd recalled summers got hotter, they got more extreme. Um, Pollen and allergies in Virginia is common, so you can't really differentiate whether or not that's better or different in terms of how climate change exists, which I dispute to say that let's not even talk about climate change. Let's talk about on a global level. The whole world has shifted in terms of how the earth is adjusting its natural cycle. So, do I believe that there's a warming of the planet? Absolutely. Do I believe that people that actually have beliefs of in terms of climate change are always telling the truth? I have to say that every statistic has its own merit. You're going to have people with different opinions. I'm not going to say that every person has to believe it, but when you're looking right there in the eye of something like a serious hurricane, which I already knew yesterday and even the day before, and even from the past history, since I moved down here to Florida, I've been very fortunate, and every single major hurricane that's either come up the East Coast or even has surpassed into the Gulf, we have missed it and we have been skimmed and blessed. And I do not think just because I live in Florida, other people in another state do not have to worry about this. So this is a general message to those folks out there. And I just want to make a quick general point here using the internet to look up this storm, Ida, which is going to affect it. So Hurricane Ida is already in the search history from other people who's looking there. A lot of them are talking about, like stuff I haven't even looked at yet, but I saw it from my smartphone because I do watch this, even though I don't live in the southern lower southern states. I still think of them, especially in Louisiana. There's a lot of general classic things that come from those places, even though I've never visited, that I really treasure and value. And the people that live there, all the same, especially watching When the Levees Broke, which was an older film way back when Hurricane Katrina affected it. There's a lot of Americans who have not watched that film. And if you haven't watched it, you definitely should. I am definitely going to say that if you're going to watch any film to understand the hardship that Louisiana and its citizens suffered through when George W. Bush didn't follow through with a lot of that hurricane relief, I can tell you it is definitely true. He did not take it into account to really help the people of Louisiana. The governor was struggling, the people were struggling. There are so many unnecessary losses of life. There's so much destruction, water damage, lost pets, lost people, unnecessary deaths involving sickness just from standing and resonating water that carried bacteria, disease. And this was the aftermath of that storm. And just as a recap, even though this storm is not like Katrina, we want to think of this as like a secondary version of Katrina. Let's not even talk about that. We don't ever compare two storms as the same because these are different people, some of which have either have come and overcome these hardships and learned no two storms are the same. Let's not compare the two. You wouldn't treat it any differently. And the most dangerous factor here is that if your governor tells you to get out of the state or to leave, if your family tells you to leave, listen to them and heed that understanding. Where I live in the state of Florida, there's this, I feel, weird flip side of where people say, they take a hurricane seriously, or they say, oh, we haven't been affected by a few that have come through. They were nothing serious, so we didn't worry about it. So the next one coming along, we're not going to stress over it. And then there's this weird group, which I've heard, I don't know if this is still going on, and if it is, bless it be for those who still take for granted and kind of ignore the danger and the threats. They call what they refer to here in Florida, people celebrate hurricanes as a hurricane drinking party, which I do not at all stand in. I treat the storm seriously. I don't celebrate or party, and I certainly don't think of it as it's a fun event. The storms that weather our Earth and the things that are happening only coming in the future, just as a helpful educational tip that I've learned. Hurricanes are not becoming, I would say, necessarily stronger. They're just more frequent, and they'll take longer. And that's bad, very bad. And the reason why I would say bad is that it's a strong, easy to understand reference term that anybody can understand, that you can listen to everybody, you can listen to research that you've looked up, you can listen to specialists and people that have looked into this. But first and foremost, what you got to know is that if they're talking about a storm like Ida coming in and they're predicting that it could reach a category 4, it doesn't matter anything in regards to that. If you have the opportunity for evacuation plans to help your neighbors, to help your friends, to raise money and raise awareness, to do whatever it takes, spare and save as many people's lives as humanely possible. Do not think that this storm is just another typical storm, or it may just avoid or maybe not possibly hit. I've been watching and I've been seeing that poor Louisiana has been getting hit a lot, even with the smaller storms. It's been drenched with rain and water damage, and I know Texas too has been affected, even some parts of Alabama and Florida, mostly on the far southern parts down there in the Everglades, and then even over here in North Carolina, over here. So these areas are hot spots, but the track path where it comes in from over here, these storms all seem to follow this simple straight line, and then by the time they get right within this region here, they pick their decision whether they're going to go up or they're going to go in. And Katrina, ironically, at the time that it came in, even as I watched it on a Doppler radar, not that I need to give anybody visuals, literally it came up and then it kind of broke apart over here, and then it's kind of swung in and then just kind of hooked straight up. And by the time that storm was even crossing over Florida and the effect of what it even did, Katrina referencing this, and I know a lot of people who weren't alive back then, or even the people now, they say, oh yeah, we remember that storm all too well. Well, the thing is, people saw that storm coming. The president saw that storm coming, and the effect of it when it crossed over Florida and it broke apart and it was kind of struggling to formation because of the mass of what Florida is just a big gigantic sand dune, especially at that elevation at the southern part of Florida. There's really not much. From what I understand, the entire state sits on literally nothing but gas and sand and water, a waterbed underneath. So we're fortunate that this state of Florida, as crazy as all the things and shameful things that have happened on the domestic and level of our own state, from the worst news that's been captivated to the history of Florida, we've been fortunate that there's been a few storms that have hit us in the past that have remembered and stuck with people to remind them that for the majority, let's not joke or laugh about storms. And certainly, as horrifying as it is when I watch the storm review cast of Hurricane Katrina's aftermath effects, even before and after, when the levees broke, which was freely offered on my HBO, which I'm fortunate enough to be able to afford. And I even give that free of charge to people I live with. There's a lot of stuff some people, they don't want to read into because they think it's too depressing. Well, if you don't learn something, you don't educate yourself, you're not going to be prepared for stuff. And then it's even worse because then you're faced with these hardships and these realities in front of you, and you don't even understand how other people cope through this, how to survive. And the last thing you want to be doing is being afraid and being unprepared and making the worst decisions that could lead you either in a life-threatening situation or a completely unnecessary cost of expense to human life, or just your natural survival and comforts to stress you out and ruin your overall longevity of happiness, and just break you down inside and out. And people who are affected by Katrina, as well other storms even further north, even though they weren't as severe, everybody knows the taste of what it's like. So with this storm Ida, I say do not at all think that this won't be something serious to take, in terms of a serious matter. Right now they're just talking about, they're talking about they're bracing for a severe blow. Here's the creepy thing. I knew this storm, even without even looking at it, was going to be a threat, but I'm no meteorologist and I'm no expert, as I said before, and I knew for a fact when they were talking about it being a Category 2 and people planning to prepare for a Category 3, I said to myself, people in Louisiana should be thinking about the worst case scenario. There are a lot of poor individuals, not just all being African American and Spanish. There are white folks too down there that are all in this together. And there's a song that's kind of corny that was made back, I think it was in the earlier or maybe it was 2010. I'm not really sure. I'm not an expert on this, but just as an inspiration here, that we are all in this together, which is kind of old. We're all in this together, which is not by Nine Inch Nails. That's not the one. We're all in this together. That's definitely not it. That's definitely not it. No, no, it's a different song artist. Just ignore that. But there are songs that I would like to say that people in Louisiana right now, if you have the opportunity to put these songs in effect to keep you strong throughout difficult times and hardships, and anywhere else in the states, in the United States for that matter, since I'm trying to start this channel to be more of a youthful mentorship of younger folks to think about from a generation like mine, Generation X, and there's many more like me out there. We don't tend to gossip, brag, or boast for the majority. We tend to keep silent, stay out of issues. We're stuck between millennials and Gen Z and even the newer gens. And you got to have a voice to speak out because you see a lot of stuff going on. And I say, have a voice, speak out. A lot of brains and intelligence and intellect is going to waste because people don't speak, they don't talk, they don't want to be known. They'd rather just stay subtle and hidden. And it's good to get that voice out there. You could try to talk to the president. You could write him a letter, or her, when the day comes we actually get an elected woman, if that in fact ever happens. I'm not against this. Um, but yeah, the most powerful thing is the power of voice, and there's no doubt in my mind as I look this up on my smartphone right now. We're all in this together. We are all in this together. I don't know why I'm not finding the song right off the top of my head. Together. Let me see here. See if I can find this together. Oh, Ben Lee. It's this one right here. Yeah, it's Ben Lee, and he released this song in. Let's see, this is a copyrighted song, so I'm not gonna play the whole bit. We'll just leave that little bit. So um, Ben Lee, in this together, all in this together. That's like an inspirational song for people united, no matter your color of skin, your creed, your wealth, your inheritance, all this stuff. This is an old song. This is definitely not new. Yeah, it's like 2005, so I was right about that. I thought it was maybe 2010. But what's so sad about that song today still stands true because what has been going on? Apart from just serious hurricanes, serious storms, we've had mass shootings and violence. We've had, in my state, fathers killing mothers, kids killing their parents. There's been mothers killing their kids. There's been parents and families hurting their loved ones, and not just that, their kids and loved ones hurting each other. You've had both sides of the sexes creating this systemic problem, and the whole root of that comes right down to the core principle of people that aren't thinking in terms of the future. You can't always meet the quota of doing what's good for everybody, but certainly within a group and a community, you can think about not doing harm to yourselves and not doing harm to others and not remaining ignorant to the bare principle of human life. Now, I'm not the president and I don't want to run for president. If somebody tried to say from all my inspirational videos that I even had a voice to become president, I'll tell you right now, that's the last position I would ever want to even think of getting into for a couple of reasons. I just don't want that weight of responsibility. There's a level in me that cares more for what goes on, being down there with the common man and not being at the top percent thinking about, oh, I could become famous one day. I could become wealthy. I could do something amazing. Here's the thing. I'm going to share something true about myself, which I want to share with you. And even with watching this, and that's why I made this video, not just to depressively talk about a storm that could be really severe, but to tell people this is why. You want to have these memories, you want to have these moments, and to have these moments are just like the moments I'm making right now with this recording. Within this channel, and with that one little clip, a bit that I wrote, which YouTube could, characterize like, oh yeah, you put a song in here. There's no song. I have found, because I'm not really a singing type person, I'm not a mathematical skilled person, nor am I good with memory. My best skill is with my hands. And the generation of those who work with their hands, those jobs, they're dying out with machines. So I'm actually a pre-existed, phased, obsolete human being when it comes to the work ethic and the force. So what do I have left? I have my brain. And I'm not saying that I can't get a job and I can't work. What do I do with myself right now? I work scrap jobs. I help out cleaning up waste and pollution. I pick up trash off the streets. I'm going to tell you a testimony. I've actually picked up more waste and pollution that has been in my local area, in my community, than what a normal person brings back to their house. And I mean that by saying that most people usually fill up their garage and their home with junk from themselves. Me, I've done the exact opposite. Instead of bringing my own stuff to clutter my house, I brought in other waste and productive, recyclable or polluted material back into my house. And that's just an example to clean up my community and then myself to do the work that nobody else was doing. When I used to live in Virginia, I'd see prisoners on the side of the road picking up waste and pollution. In the state of Florida, I guess that budget doesn't really meet that quota where they pay the prisoners or have the jobs for the prisoners to do that work, if they're even getting paid anything. And in Louisiana, I certainly hope they got the money to put that forth to keep the state looking clean and green. Because if I know anything about Louisiana, it's hot, it's muggy, full of swamps, the bayou, deep, thick trees, lots of mosquitoes, beautiful, scenic land that goes on and on for hundreds and hundreds of miles, and even many degraded areas which are being affected that are home to natural habitats great for fishing. I'm sure there's water sport related stuff. I've never really been to Louisiana, but I know for one thing, there's the home of Louisiana in terms of where they have the great festivals and the great bands and marches. And even in Louisiana, as I understood, which is very different from most other cities, when there's a death of a funeral, they honor them with a song that busts out in joyousness to remember the people that have been lost. And that's something you won't find anywhere else. There's a culture and a preciousness there, and that touched me. That I've learned from not just the movie that I watched, the documentary on When the Levees Broke, Acts 1 and Part 2, which I strongly recommend you guys watch, but you got to hear me on this. When I'm talking about why I made a video about this and why it's so important, it's just that, you'll see stuff that the people are always talking about. Big famous people that want to get out there on the news, or people that are on the low end spectrum that do the worst things that horrify us all, even worldwide, even people's perception in the entire world toward America, thinking that we're all fat and obese and we don't care. We're ignorant. I've seen actually more than just a movie, but also on live broadcasts, and people have actually gone out and asked these questions from multiple different channels, what they ask and what they think of America. It does trouble me in a great deal because we were supposed to be the country that hopefully inspired the rest of the world to step up to the plate, to do good and spread the goodness around. But unfortunately, we've carried on with a legacy of too many, we'll say, wars that we shouldn't have been involved in. And I definitely stand with the whole uh, hardships of those who struggled through Vietnam, and even before that, World War II. And even though that was a needed war, it's like a lot of people don't take that seriously, but there are many people who do, and I really am glad that the majority of people do not think the Holocaust was a hoax. I mean, I know this is random topic. I say that proudly because I have ADD. I can make a point, jump off of it, try to cover a basic point of what I'm getting at, and then move to a next one. Move to the next one and point that out. I only bring up the topic and admit that I have that learning disability, but I embrace it with pride because why be ashamed of something when you've learned to somewhat master it in a little way? I used to need medication when I was a kid, but then I found out I didn't need it. And I'm starting to wonder if other kids today, even those who have had ADD, had to learn their own strategy and techniques to get away from that. And that's just me pointing out something as an average middle class American, even on the low wealth spectrum, where I'm not even making barely, we'll just say I make nothing, okay, nothing per year, where I'm walking out saying that I made a profit at the end of this year. I've been out of my job since COVID affected my line of business. I used to be a driving instructor, and before that, I was simply working in retail. Okay, so anybody can do anything that they want to, even if they're not at the best skill set, being mathematically skilled. You can come up with a new job or an inventful way to inspire people to do things. And what I really wish white people would do, and I do specify this as white people since I'm half Italian, and I think a little bit Cherokee. Never got a full blood work test on this. Forgive me, I'm swatting at a fruit fly somehow or another. They've been getting in. State of Florida, can't help it. They sneak into the house. They don't last long, but they do annoy me. Anyway, point of what I'm getting at here is with this storm that's affecting, and a basic gist of what I want to get at and the consistency of my videos, and what I'm going to put out there, even if there may not be music involved to inspire some of those points or sponsors. I'm trying to create enough videos to eventually generate that point where I can get ads running on there and frequently, and then sponsor things. I'm definitely a fan of Raycon, and I definitely will be supporting them. I think Leon Lush, probably one of the famous comedic satire, I like to call politically correct bros in a way, which I take from a reference from South Park, which makes fun of political correctness from the recent episodes that came out. I'm a big fan of Matt Dre Parker. They certainly have never shied away from making fun and blasting certain sensitive topics, even if it was volatilely just awkward and ugly. Sometimes they hit the notes and they said things that were just offensive, whether it was a discriminative tone. I can assure you they blasted themselves even more than Family Guy has done, or even than The Simpsons have done. And don't think that I don't like The Simpsons or Family Guy. I still like both of them. There's one reason why I give South Park a slight edge, because they're a little bit newer edge on that whole cutting point. And that's not to say that The Simpsons still don't have it. They pretty much mastered everything from the get-go, and they were the ones that gave innovation to most other cartoons that have revolutionized themselves. So if anything, they're like the grandfather of the great new 21st century revolutionary jokes, sick twists, and parodies and exaggerated hyperbole. You can even put it into context to say that they started everything. But what we're going to really come back to, apart from comedy, great innovations, great shows, great comedians who are giving out better news than some of the CNN and NBC and CBS and even ABC News. You can't sit there and tell me you watch the TV and you watch a news anchor tell you stuff about what's going on in the world, and then you flip through the channel to see if somebody else is telling something that doesn't have to do with news. Let's all admit that the news is nothing but not so positively enlightening, and most times, most of those things are just depressing stories or sad things. But most on local news, which most people forget, there are actually inspiring stories of small underground heroes, unheard of heroes, whether they're from a child that did something amazing, or a man, or a woman, or an inspirational leader in the community that's doing something. You check those shows, and I guarantee you, you'll have a sign of hope and positivity apart from all the darkness that's going on. And there's a short tidbit to something that I don't care what people think about my opinion here. Between the choice of the former president former President Trump, which I never supported, and the crooked Hillary candidate back in 2016, which most people hated, I'm going to tell you this: I was not proud to vote for Hillary, and I never would have wanted the choice between the two. But the South Park reference, once again, as I pull that back up, way back in the day, they did this way before we ever had a choice between those two. They made a great reference that relates to the election year of 2016. They did this way back, which is in South Park, giant douche and turd sandwich episode. Let's say episode. Oh my gosh, my typing. Yeah, better with my hands and work. That was back in 2004, okay? Now you fast forward to 2016, that's a drastic difference, but they already basically called out the ridiculousness of what elections can feel like. And let me tell you something, kids and young adults. You can listen to your parents complain, and even you, Gen X's and other millennials out there. I'm not just going to say it's just about me, and even Gen Zs. You guys all think about this. You're watching your older generations complain, and many of them have gotten into being elected official. Would you say that everybody's grandfather and grandmother that you have in your family, you'd want them being the president? I mean, we literally just watched somebody's grandfather successfully take over the White House and make it his own and say some pretty blasphemy, xenophobic things constantly and frequently. Are you shocked, really? I mean, the man is old. He may be wealthy, he may be smart to have gotten away with half the stuff he got away with. Well, let's just hope he's smart enough to keep himself out of further trouble, and certainly well enough not to create more problems and complications, and just posting things that are not something we need in this country. We need innovators that are going to carry on for the future. It's pretty commonly heard that our Earth is in great peril and great trouble. Hurricanes, as I started with this discussion, are just a small part of that wake-up call that we all have to think about. And like I said, before I even saw this, which is terrifying in itself, just to point out what they're talking about this storm could be in its category, before it gets to these points, it is absolutely terrifying, the actual hurricane full forecast from the National Weather Service. So go to the National Weather Service, okay? National Weather Service. For Hurricane Ida, track for Ida, just say for Ida. And this is what they're talking about, okay? They're saying that the original track was supposed to be kind of like right in here and floating through. We're going to kind of skip through this. This isn't even accurate because from what I've watched, this is close, but it's not quite the same. This is what happens when you don't pay for, you save money on the internet and you don't pay for ads. That's what I'm going to be honest with you. Don't pay to remove ads. It's wasteful. You're giving ads the excuse that you're basically giving them that full power to push past those points. But what I want to skip through in here, apart from all this, what they're talking about, it passing over which lands and where the water's warmest. I've already learned about this, and most people know this in Louisiana if you live there. Now, check this out. Okay, we'll pause this. This was updated as of August 27th. Now, that's only from yesterday. And I'm going to tell you right now, that is a pretty daggone good, accurate track. But they're talking about this, and they're only calling it a Category 3. I'm telling you right now, before it was the exact opposite. And mind you, this is just yesterday, as of 4:47 p.m. Right now, we are at 8:28, 2021 at 8:24 p.m. So it's the next day. They're talking about they're keeping an update on this. Not saying that most sources aren't going to be accurate, but I'm going to tell you this right now. This was the exact opposite. They were saying, oh, by this point that it's going to be at a 3. They said it was going to be at a 2, but prepare for a 3, right? Now it's like, oh, from 1 to 3? I wouldn't trust that. All right, quite frankly, don't trust Biden trying to post something like Trump did on a terrible point, but they're basically trying to prevent people from getting scared, and I don't want anybody to be scared. I want you to be smart and safe and think logical. That's the gist of this video, and to really treasure human life and value it, because if there's anything we can learn from the past records, even if you play a slow bio video of each hurricane and how scary that was, forgive me, I had to crack my neck, it is too evidently clear that Louisiana keeps getting the blunt force of these storms. You residents that live in these hot areas that keep getting, hit at the worst case scenario. Here's more. Okay, here's more accurate. Okay, that's not really accurate. Okay, no. The General National Weather Service, they just say major hurricane. Then by the time it hits, it's hurricane. No. I would say trust something that's going to be a little bit more accurate. Okay, something that's going to really give a good forecast. And the best thing to really say is here. Here's a good image of. Now this is as of now, August 28th, 2021 at 1:14 p.m. Much more recent, just like most people that have already seen or heard of this. Mute that, skip through this ad, 24 seconds. This is what's driving me crazy. You know what, let me skip down. Here we go. We don't need all that. Twitter awakeness. Okay, see that right there? That is not something I would say is a joke, okay? I wouldn't joke about that. I take that very seriously. Take it from me, spread this video, spread awareness, apart from just who I am, apart from people making these posts from ABC, as you see here, okay? Just from a Twitter feed. Take this seriously. Screenshot this, save this, write this down, spread awareness to your friends and family, anybody that are going to be affected by these areas, which quite frankly, this would be on my other phone, which I have in my back, it's not in my back pocket, might be on my bed. A second. See if I can check it out and see where I last left it. Might be, yep, it's right over here. I'm going to show you what I can see on my phone. Get back here. Okay, check this out. Okay, I don't even live there, and my phone literally points this out as clear as day, even though I'm not physically in that same concern zone area where I have to worry about this. But just for you guys to understand this, download the AccuWeather app. It shows you right here, Hurricane Ida, and it tells you a pretty realistic, raw reality scope of what they're looking at. Okay, so you're talking about a Category 4 guaranteed, even at the weakest end. That's not a joke. And for whatever reason, the Weather Channel keeps talking about it could be less or not. Louisiana can't even afford to get hit with a Category 1 with just the rain and how slow these storms move. So a category 2, possible category 3, they can't make up their minds. Don't doubt the Weather Channel. Trust yourself. Don't ever discriminate against the Weather Channel. They're doing this to keep you safe. They have a lot of experts, hundreds and thousands of them out there catching everything from weather readings from up high in the airplane or in the ocean with the buoys to the National Weather Service's smart tracking, geographical, whatever they do. I don't know all this stuff. But I'm just saying, I don't want to see loss of life. It's been bad enough in the United States, recorded on history, since President Trump took office. Even before that, we had shootings and violence on the rise, as well as major storms cataclysmically affecting the United States. The United States has more money invested in out-of-sea projects than it does here in this country. So expecting aid and support to come immediately after a storm, you're far out there. You need to protect yourself. Don't literally think you're alone, but plan for it as if you were alone. To look out for your neighbors, look out for the people you can help. And I really say, bless you all, and please stay safe during this storm. Don't think it's going to be a joke or it's nothing to take seriously. And if you really can't move, you need to move to higher ground. Don't take the risk and say that you can't move, you can't find better, safer areas to go to. That is ludicrous. You're sitting there with a buoy that already broke during Katrina, which, just for the honorary sakes of this, okay, just want everybody to get a visual image of this. It is bone-chilling to watch. This is just a live satellite video playback. Okay, just watch this. Okay, this is 1 minute and 36 seconds long. Every time I watch this, it gives me bone-chilling just effects, and this is literally what happened. Okay, now this is nothing, and I repeat, nothing compared to the same track that occurred with this current storm Ida or any others that have affected Louisiana. So this is just remembering what happened. Just watch this. It's eerie and creepy. It's very scary. There's a bone-chilling effect here. And I was actually too young to know what was going on during this time. Okay, I'd been still in, I think, middle school. I'd already known about the World Trade Center bombing from years before, and I was too young to even know what was going on. But watch this. Time-stamped from there. It's chilling. So as I said before, it gets over Florida. It struggles a tad bit, kind of dips down, breaks off, kind of chokes out, and then once it gets straight into that area at that particular time, it seems to just and yeah, oh man. And that is all you need to see. Okay, that is yeah. We're gonna close that. Okay, that does not follow the same track as this storm. As you can see from this radar, this is coming straight up and in. But what's the bad news here? Okay, from what I've learned, all the warm water in the central part of the Gulf all funnels in here and in here, mixed in between the armpit section of Florida here and from Louisiana. Louisiana's water here and all throughout the entire coastal area, the warmest water section is right in here off the Gulf Coast. It's anywhere between 88 to 90 degrees. Anywhere in here, this is in the upper 80s. And this whole track where this storm is following, this is no joke, my friends. So residents and fellow Americans who live in Louisiana and the surrounding areas, heed the warning that your governor places for you. Heed your family and friends and take great care. Okay, don't play around with this and don't wait. Something I hope to inspire to do is create the common average American, like, if I could be president, kind of thought speaking in voice. That's how I want to represent myself in my channel. I'm an old soul. I'm horrified and shocked that a lot of things have been going on in this country apart from gun violence, senseless killings, just heinous acts of murder, sexual violence, pedophilia. I don't even understand how this is still going on. It doesn't, I won't say that I don't see how it's not going on. It's shocking that it's still going on in the same ways it's continue to just desecrate the innocence of people that are thinking, okay, are we improving? Are we getting better? Um, Now, with this storm and what they're talking about, possible category 5, all right, let's not panic, all right? But just think about it like you were protecting your loved ones and you're protecting your animals and all your belongings, the most precious properties. Move to higher ground. Send word to your governor. Don't blame them for not stepping up for this storm. Prepare for this. This storm hasn't even gotten quite yet where it's going to get in its worst case scenario, but this is already Saturday, and tomorrow's Sunday. I don't want to say I'm too late, okay? But they're talking about 1 p.m. tomorrow. If you guys have reason to move and relocate, please do. I'm sure many people have already made evacuation plans, and many of them are already thinking about this. But really, as you're hurriedly rushing out the door, and you've got all the necessary preparations and the wealth and the generosity to do this, don't be afraid to offer people help if you think you know somebody who doesn't have the money to help themselves and get out of there. Even just getting a lift to a safer, higher place or a higher location. I send all my prayers to everybody in Louisiana and the entire southern hemisphere of not just Florida. We've been very lucky. I'm saying in Alabama, in Texas, and Mississippi. All right, Mississippi and Louisiana right now are going to be the two greatest affected areas by this storm. Mississippians need to step up to the plate as well. There's no doubt that both areas are going to be heavily affected. Just from this phone viewing of that and zooming in right in there, yes, Mississippi is going to be affected just the same. It looks like Houma, Golden Meadow, Thibodeaux, Napoleonville, Covenant, Gonzales, Baton Rouge, Plaquemine, all those areas going straight up through Woodville before this even dies down or it gets weakened. So the entire southern part of Louisiana and Mississippi needs to be on the highest alert. Governors there, if you live in those states and you hadn't already done this, call your governor's office or email them. Ask them what you can do. Ask them what preparations are being made. Talk to friends and family. Definitely stay close and stay tight and stay safe. If you need a good tracker to ever get and a good sponsor, I will always say, right here, I can sponsor this one, even though I definitely am no meteorologist. It's called Hurritracker, or Hurritracker. This is what it looks like. I'll actually look it up in my Apple phone, which I'm fortunate enough to even have had. This is the iPhone 11. I'm not jumping to the iPhone 12. Definitely not worrying about that. So the Hurritracker is an app, which of course, I looked it up through the wrong thing. Go figure. It's in the App Store. Okay, all right. Hurritracker. This thing is literally a lifesaver. It's totally worth it. This is what it looks like right here, okay? Hurritracker. They call it Hurricane Tracker, but it's really called HURR space TRACKER. Now, if you can't afford it, AccuWeather is free. Okay, Hurritracker I think is like $3.99, and it's a lifetime subscription or lifetime service where you're literally your own meteorologist. Let me just show you how cool this is. So, forgetting all that, closing out all windows, scroll this out, close. Forget all that. And if I talk fast and I have a fast-paced mindset of how you may perceive me coming off talking about this, it's because my heart beats just a little faster than the average person. I have a pre-existing condition which involves having extremely low good levels of cholesterol, where my heart has to work just a tad bit harder. My dad had the same thing, and he didn't do the best in his heart health when he was younger. He had 5 heart attacks before the age of 50, or by the age of 50. Not a good thing. If you're worried about your health and you don't have a heart pre-existing condition, eat healthy. Stay away from greasy and fatty foods, and cheat when you can on rare occasion. It's going to be hard, but if you can afford to, it's worth it. Okay? Really is. So this storm, and what this app allows you to do, is literally be able to look at all sorts of different things, which I am no expert on, but it tells you everything from the affected peak surge forecast, flash flooding potential, U.S. rainfall potential, sea surface temperatures, which aid and guide a storm like a hurricane in its benefit of growth. It shows you the low pressure bar system, which brings in sad and depressing weather, which is not what we're talking about here. Forget the factor of depressing and sad. The tropical storm arrival, which you guys are going to feel as early as Sunday at 2 a.m. They said 1 p.m. It's saying likely it's going to be coming in somewhere around Sunday 1 a.m. or 2 a.m. Okay, just at the coastal area, you're going to start to feel that effect. Okay, 1 a.m. Sunday. You guys hear me on that? All right, and surface wind field, and the strongest affected areas will be in this red zone right here, this drastically reddened area, and then that being the center of the storm right there. So I'm not the expert here. HurrTracker, I will take them from them because they use two of the greatest models that they talk about, which is the GFS and the what is the other one? Why am I even looking at it through here? I can go to models. This is pretty cool. And this shows a futuristic playthrough of what's going to happen with the storm. I'm not going to say that this is accurate, nor perfectly accurate, but just as an example, and to pull the camera view up here so I make sure you guys are also seeing what I'm seeing here. You know, the best thing to kind of get a visual on, which I know you guys cannot see this that well. Maybe I can dim this. It's terrible. Try dimming the frame rate down a little bit. Maybe that will help lighten that up. Maybe not. It's a 40-minute video. Wow, that went a lot longer than I thought. All right, the playthrough of what this is talking about, getting involved in, it's looking like it's aiming straight up, and it's going to affect right there at the foot, hooking in and hitting right there, kind of like what they're talking about here. So I would definitely say this is a safe bet to say that it's going to come up and it's going to hook and swing. And this HurrTracker app does the same thing, and so does AccuWeather. So thank you for joining me and watching this. Hopefully you guys spread some awareness. I'm going to upload this video. It is 40 minutes long, a bit lengthy, but it's for good awareness. So thank you for watching. I might even cut it into 2 tidbits. That might be better. Part 1 and part 2, so it's 20 minutes apiece. Maybe better. Thank you for watching again, and best of luck to everybody. And stay safe, please. Thank you. Bye-bye.